Okay, so this is basically part 2 of the Josh uh, Cooper, whatever his name is, dexterity test, his field sobriety test on a road. This is a DA. I did another video. I'll put a link in the description if you want to watch a video on where this DA, they kind of screwed the pooch and kind of let him loose. He had a head-on crash, went the wrong way on a one-way street at 0:30 in the morning, and the cop said he wasn't drunk. So let's look at these FSTs, and I'm going to go over and give you some good and bad and some of my observations.
Josh, do me a favor, step over here on the sidewalk for me, all right? Based on circumstances tonight, I understand that you've been drinking, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm running you through your dexterity tasks, okay?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see where things are at, and we'll go from there, all right?
Okay, so to start on this, the reason why I had him walk over to the sidewalk is you always want to do your FSTs on as flat level surface as possible. If you do FSTs on the ground or on an unlevel street or in this drainage tunnel here on the side of the road, the defense, when they get you in court, they're going to say, was the ground even? And what did you try it? And isn't it unfair to do it on a, shouldn't you have done it? Why didn't you do it on a sidewalk? You know, would you want to do it on this ramp here that heads down and make the guy have more balance? So you want to defeat those, so you always want to start your test and pick the area that's a nice flat area. If you have to move to a parking lot or across the street to sidewalk, that's just a cop tip for guys doing DUIs, so you don't have to learn the hard way when a defense attorney tears up your field sobriety test in court.
How these work is, I'm going to have you stand with your feet together and your hands down at your side out of your pockets for me while I'm telling you and explaining things to you, okay? I'll explain these things to you, and then I'll have you do them, okay? Don't do them till I explain them to you, okay?
Okay, so that's critical. When you're doing FSTs, you always want to tell, and the tests have already started, and drunks don't know this, but your ability to see how well somebody follows instructions is part of the test. So by telling him to stand straight with his hands by his side and his feet together and listen to your test and don't do anything, I'm going to explain it first, most drunks will start doing the test with you. That's just what they do, because their thought process, because of the alcohol and complex thinking or complex skills or you know, fine motor skills are decreased when you're under the influence of alcohol. So their ability to pay attention to multiple things, that's why field sobriety tests are called divided attention tests. They divide your attention. I'm giving you several things to pay attention to, and I'm going to see how many of the things you ignore. And the more things you try to pay attention to, then you can't focus on the one thing that I want to evaluate, such as the heel to toe, standing straight, following directions, finger to whatever it is. So the cop either didn't do it or whatever. They're standardized field sobriety tests. Most people, he didn't do the finger to nose. He did the finger count. He didn't do the 30-second Romberg, which I always like to do. And he let him skip the one-legged stand, which is a really good test for balance. So the cop, to me, was kind of what I call softballing or soft-shoeing the FSTs in the first place. But it's a good, he got him on level ground. He told him to stand there while he's doing it. Now watch how many times this guy does not stand here and does not listen and does not wait. Those are all critical things when an officer goes, the suspect had failure to follow instructions and had a hard time following instructions.
All right. The first task I want you to do is just I want you to recite your full name and birthday for me, okay?
My name is Joshua James Kuiper, date of birth.
Notice the hands moving, and I want you to notice, use this tree here as a marker where he's standing. Watch the sway left and right and back and forth. Watch his movement of his balance while he's talking and his arms flapping. He's not going to be standing still. His head will go back and forth, etc. Now he's nervous, and these things sometimes can be nervous, but the little things will add up the more you observe drunk drivers.
Okay. Graduate high school, college education?
Both of those.
Both of those. Okay. No problems reading, writing, speaking English, anything of that nature? No?
I don't want to pull any jokes here, but no.
No? Okay.
Okay, the reason why we usually ask for the education level is sometimes somebody will go in there, especially when we're dealing with illegals, and they can't speak English, and they don't have a lot of education. So they say, I didn't understand the test. And because I didn't understand it, that's why I did it wrong. And you're saying I was drunk because I did it wrong, when in fact, I didn't have education and I didn't understand it. So we normally like to ask people, what's your education level? You graduated high school. It also, when we ask you to do the alphabet test, we know you know the alphabet. If you go out there, hopefully you know the alphabet. Nowadays, I don't even know if the damn kids can say the alphabet when they get out of high school. Who freaking knows? But anyway, I digress. So those are the reasons why cops are asking these things. And again, this whole time, we're watching this sway. Watch this tree. It becomes here, and then it's all the way over here on his shoulder. And then it's here. And it's already done it a couple times. This is what we call swaying, inability to maintain balance while I was explaining the test, had a hard time standing straight. Any of those phrases when you're doing your DUI report would work to show that he was not in this one area.
All right. Any problems with your balance, knees, hips, back, anything that would inhibit you from doing any kind of physical tasks?
Knees are a little bit.
They're not amazing.
Not amazing.
All right. So they're how old are you?
Yeah. 72.
All right. So you're 43-year-old knees. I get it. 42-year-old knees. All right. So the first thing I'm gonna have you do is I just want you to reset.
Okay. So why do we go over medical? When we ask if you have any medical conditions, when you go to court a few times on drunk driving cases, the defense will say, did you know my client had a bad back? Did you know he was a diabetic and forgot his insulin? Did you know that he was taking painkillers because he just had surgery 2 days ago? All these things have come up, literally. And, I mean, you learn over time that I want to make sure that he can't come up later and say he had all these issues, because I'm going to give him the opportunity right here. Are you physically fit to do these tests? Do you have any injuries, under any medications, anything that I should know about that would inhibit your ability to complete these tests properly? And normally they will say no. Sometimes that will open the door, depending on how drunk they are, to give you a list of freaking mile long of, when I was a kid, I hurt my elbow, and I used to play baseball, but I threw my arm out, and my ankle was sprained when I did track when I was, and they will just go through all these lists, and I'll just let them go through it, because, I mean, it's just like, all right, whatever. So they want to give you their whole medical history, they're trying to think ahead of you here, and thinking, if I can give you all these, if I fail the test, I'll have a lot of good excuses. Now, these are probably people who have had prior drunk driving, and they've learned in court, and they've learned that these things can help them if they had injuries. So you got to be careful not to let some guy run out of the way. Sometimes you got to stop and go, okay, look, what are you in pain right now? What are you taking right now? If I get to a test and you can't do it, you tell me why you can't do it, and then we'll do it anyway, or I'll see if you ain't capable of doing it. So, and they'll tell you in the middle of it, you know, oh, my leg's hurting, I can't hold it. Oh, my fingers, I have arthritis, I can't count. Oh, I got a headache because I didn't eat. And the list goes on and on. All right, here we go.
Recite your alphabet, okay? I don't want you to sing it like when you were a kid. I just want you to say it like this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Okay, we're still watching the swing. And the reason why we tell them not to sing it, because you'll notice at the end here, the guy starts singing it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. So they'll start singing it. They'll start off good with A, B, C. And as they move on, they always end up singing it. And that's why we tell them at the beginning, I don't want you to sing it. Again, that's another check mark in the failure to follow instructions, failure to listen properly, and failure to comply with the test the way I explained it to you.
All the way to Z, okay? Can you go ahead and do that for me now?
I can. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Excellent. All right.
I love it when they say, now I said my ABC, tell me what you think of me. You big dummy. All right, so here we go. Still getting a little swing. We're still observing his ability to keep his arms down, to stand in the same spot and listen to instructions. Don't interrupt, and do the test after I explain it when I tell you to start.
The next test I'm going to have you do is called the hand dexterity test, okay? I'm going to...
See this wind blowing here? That's an issue, because the defense is going to say, was it windy that night? And he will pull a report saying it was windy. and he will know what the wind speed was that night. So when you're writing your report, to counter that, taking the test into consideration and watching the test, there was some movement. I did take into consideration it was windy. However, there was times that he did not show good balance when the wind stopped or slowed. That way you cover that in your report so the defense can say, did you know it was windy? No, I didn't know. Did you notice it was windy? No, I didn't notice that. Did you know the wind was 20-mile-an-hour gust that night? No, I did not. Well, did you take that in consideration when you did it? It's hard to take it in consideration if I didn't know it. So then it gives the defense a chance to go, oh, maybe the tests aren't good and these cops are just after my client.
Take these gloves off just so you can see my hand a little bit better, okay? What this involves is just involves you touching some fingertips and counting aloud for me, okay? Sorry. I didn't touch anybody, so I'll save these guys. All right, this task here, I'll explain it, and then I'll have you do it, okay? What I need...
He reminded him again, and you do this a lot during the test. Every time, and what you're also doing during tests, and you find out over the years, you keep a little notebook or you write on your hand of every time you start getting little codes or things that he interrupts, that he moves, that he starts test early, that he didn't follow instructions, that he's swaying, that he interrupted you. All those things, if you don't take notes doing it, you end up doing your report later and say, during the test, and you just generalize it. During the test, the suspect started before I explained it, and he interrupted me, and blah, blah. And then when you get in court, the defense is going to go, how many times did he do that? And which test were you doing when he did that? Well, I don't know. I just know he did it during the test. Well, didn't you take notes? Isn't this important? You're trying to put my client in jail. You're trying to take away his ability to drive and earn a living, and it's not important for you enough to take good notes. Then you look like an idiot, and then you're like, oh, shit, now I'm looking stupid. Now the guy gets off, and, well, whatever. It's all a big game. You figure it out later, but when you're young, it's kind of like, damn, I hate looking like an ass on a stand.
What I need you to do is I need you to touch the tip of your thumb to the tips of your fingers in a sequence that I'm going to tell you. It's just like this, okay? Just hang tight, and I'll have you do it in 1 second, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay? That's one cycle, okay? While you're doing it, I just want you to count aloud and make sure you're doing it out loud. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, give me 3 cycles.
Okay, so what we're looking for in this is we're looking for double taps. A lot of people will double tap. The only ones you should be double tapping is 4 because you start back at 4, 3, 2, 1, you're counting backwards. So you're not double tapping any finger except you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you go 1, 2, 3. So on the first one, you don't double tap your index finger, but you do double tap your little finger, and then when you come back, you should double tap your index finger. And I usually had him do 4 cycles. He did 1. I tell him do 1. I tell him do 4 because they normally do 2 or 3. And 3 is a little bit easier because, and again, I'm trying to divide his attention. I'm telling him to stand where I told him. I told him to follow my instructions. I'm looking at him concentrating on his fingers, so his sway is going to get bigger because now he can't concentrate on his balance because he's concentrating on his fingers touching, and he's concentrating on saying the right numbers when his finger touch, and he's concentrating on how many times to do it. Each time he goes back and forth, it's 1, so he has to do that 4 times. All those divided attention tests will increase his signs of being under the influence because you're distracting him, because when you're not doing anything, he's concentrating. Stand straight, don't sway, pay attention, keep my head straight, stay focused, look at him, don't move. And he's only got one thing to concentrate on, so you don't really get a full understanding of how much the alcohol is impairing his ability to do normal things without concentrating on it.
Okay?
1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so when you saw that, if you looked at that, would you say he passed or failed? I thought he was slow. I thought his hand-eye coordination was poor. I thought he miscounted on a couple. He went 4, and then when he hit his second finger and said 4 and then had to go back to his 4th finger, he miscounted. His movements weren't deliberate, and he appeared to be slow and sluggish and having, I don't know if excessive concentration would be a word, but he tends to be really concentrating on what he was doing, and it was very, very slow and not natural. I mean, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3. If you do it yourself, it's not that easy if you're not the influence. But when you have to concentrate, it becomes like a difficult task. And that difficult task is supposed to demonstrate when you're driving a car, you've got to hit the accelerator, you've got to hit the brake. You've got to control the steering wheel, you've got to use your blinkers, you've got to look in your rearview mirror, you have to clear traffic, you have to read signs, you have to notice red lights. So you're doing all these divided things when you're driving, probably smoking a cigarette and adjusting the radio and scratching your crotch or whatever else you're doing. So when you get all those things when you're driving, these little divided attention, if you're having problems with these little tests, being behind the wheel makes you kind of dangerous. All right? And I'm not a big drunk driving. I think mad for drunk driving, and drunk driving's out of control, and they've made it into, you know, felony most wanted now if you have a drink and drive. I think it's ridiculous. But I'm trying to explain on how cops are trained and what we're looking for.
The next task is going to be the 1-foot stand, okay? How this works is I want you to stand with your feet together, hands down your side, and I want you to lift up your right foot, and I'm going to have you count to 30 out loud for me, okay?
That's going to be tough.
Okay. Is that because your knees?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there...
No, it's going to be tough because I'm freaking drunk and I'm having a hard time standing. What do you expect him to... The cop gave him an excuse here. That's going to be tough. If somebody said that and I was doing FST, I'm like, well, you know, it's not that tough, and I would do it in front of them. Say, I can do it. It's not that tough. This cop goes, oh, is that because of your knees? Oh, okay, well, we'll skip this test. That's kind of BS. He's kind of soft shoeing here. This is a great test to see balance. You have to hold your foot off the ground. You're standing on one foot. You have to concentrate on balancing. Now you have to concentrate on counting while you're balancing, while you're holding your foot up. This is a good divided attention test, and he skips it completely. This guy would have felt this. He absolutely failed so far what I'm seeing, and he would have failed this test also, but he let him skip it.
Is the other foot better than that foot, or is that...
Whoa. My left foot's better than my right foot.
Okay, well...
So let's see. You can be a DA, you can drive, you can drink, you can walk home, you can get out of the car. You've been walking up and down the street just fine, and you ain't had no knee pain. Suddenly, when I asked you to stand on one leg, now you got all these knee problems? I call BS.
If it's easier to pick your left, if your knees are that, we'll just skip to this walk and turn, okay? If it's not going to be, I'm not going to put you in a bad spot for that, okay? What I need you to do is you're going to count steps, heel to toe.
Now, see, the cop kind of covered his butt here because now he's going to, when they say, why didn't you do the knee test? He's going to say, look, the guy said he had bad knees. He said he was going to have problems with it. I knew there was other tests. If I made him do that test and he fell and cracked his head, I'd feel bad. You know, the guy's a DA. I didn't have a reason for to think he was lying about his medical condition. I just didn't want to make him be in pain and make him fail the test because he's got bad knees. So the cop is going to have a legitimate, reasonable out for why he did this. I don't buy it and I don't agree with it, but what I know and what I can prove, you know, I can say what I can say, and he can go, oh, that's a false allegation. You can't say that because you can't prove it.
All right? Just imagine that there's a line here. What I'm going to have you do is I want you to count 9 steps, heel to toe, counting out loud as you take those steps, okay? When you get to your 9th step, just a nice, easy turnaround, okay? It doesn't have to be a spin, nothing pirouette. Just a nice, easy turnaround. Then in the other direction, I want you to take 7 steps back in the other direction.
Okay, so what we're doing here is we're making the divided attention test of the heel toe. We're telling him you have to concentrate and make sure your heel and toe touch, what they never do. And basically when you put the heel and toe to touch, you're lining the feet up in a straight line, which makes it harder to balance. Well, that's when you're going to see them leaning left and right and using their arms for balance. When a guy uses his arms or he starts swaying, that's going to be what kind of whether or not he's ability to stand straight or walk straight. So the comments you would make on these tests is he used his arms for balance. He didn't go in a straight line. He missed his heel to toe 6 times. If your report's really good, you'll say he missed heel to toe on his 3rd step, on his 5th step, and on his 6th step. He failed to touch his heel to toe. And when he did his turn, he turned and he spun his arms very quickly, not like I demonstrated. And he also told you to take 9 steps one way and 7 back. Those are 2 other things that the drunk has to remember because remember, he's concentrating on don't fall over, stay straight, etc. Now he has to remember, I got to go 9 steps before I turn around. I got to go 7 coming back. I've had people, I tell them take 9 steps, and on the 21 step, me and my partners watch it to them. They're way down at the end, and we're like, hey, turn around. And he turns around, he starts coming back. Rick, you shouldn't laugh, because, look, you got to have fun while you're doing these sometime, okay? It's not mean. Guy wants to walk to freaking the next state before he turns around. He's not following directions. I told him take 9 steps. I can't help it if he took 21 or 37 or 42.
Okay? So 9 steps down, a nice easy turn, and then 7 steps back, okay? All right, go ahead and do that for me now.
1, 2.
Those pausing, those stalls, is that critical? He just shows he's concentrating. He's having a hard time doing these. Does anybody that think these tests are easy and this guy's like, yeah, sure, this guy has full faculties. He's 100%, man. Let him drive. There's no reason to make him blow. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of signs that this guy is on the influence and he's really over-concentrating on trying to do these tests right. He's having to think very difficult. And, you know, yeah, it's windy out there. Is he swaying and falling down drunk? No. Is he under the influence? Yeah, I think he is. And let's not forget the other important factor that leads me to believe he might be under influence. He's driving down the wrong way on a one-way street in the middle of freaking night and he hit another car. Oh, Rick, you can't say that. That's not part of the field sobriety test. Totality of circumstances. Come on, people.
All right.
Anybody hear him counting out loud like he was told? Failure to follow orders.
All right. Okay.
Well, I can't use order. Somebody will be here. You Gestapo, Jack Boothammer. Failure to follow instructions. Failure to perform the test as instructed. Failure to complete the test. Whatever.
Next task takes a couple minutes of observation time, so I'm just going to have you have a seat in the car just for a minute until I get things figured out, okay? So.
Okay, next test is a couple of minutes of observation time. I think this is bullshit. The guys just bullshit him. Normally, what we would do if we were going to arrest somebody so we didn't get in a fight and they think they were going to jail, we go, okay, we have one more test. I need you to turn around and face away from me. And they would turn around and face away. Okay, I need you to put your hands behind your back. They'd put their hands behind their back thinking it's a test. And the next thing they'd hear is click, click, the silver bracelets. And they'd look at you like, is this part of the test? And then that's when you would tell them, I'm placing you under arrest for that. If you tell them you're placing under arrest before you get them in that disadvantage, a lot of times, remember, that's the most critical time when you put handcuffs on, you'll get more of a fight. I think that's what this cop did here. We have one more test, couple minutes observation. He gets him in the car, basically so he can decide whether or not he's going to take him. And if he's already in the car, then he might just handcuff him in the front because he's a DA instead of handcuff him in the back. Most policy says you'll handcuff in the back. However, they do make exceptions for injuries or officer discretion. Some agencies do, some don't. So they would probably handcuff him in the front because it's less uncomfortable if they were going to take him to jail, but they end up letting him go.
Uh-huh. All right, it's hard plastic, so don't flop down, okay? I'll work on this seatbelt so it doesn't run into you there. So it's not made for comfort. I understand. Just your best bet is, oh, you got him in there? All right.
Yeah, I got him.
Okay. So it ends there, and then in the other video, I'll put a link in the description where I talked about this whole case where they got on the phone calls and they did this. They get him out of the car and they say, basically, I don't have enough to think you're under the influence, and I don't have enough to make you blow on a breathalyzer, and I'm going to let you go. To me, a guy's driving at 0, dark 30 in the morning down a one-way street and creams in another car. That's enough for me to make him blow into a breathalyzer. I don't have to know anything else. This cop knew a lot more than that. Was this a great test? I think the cop did a lot of things right. He covered a medical. He made sure his education. He explained the test well. He skipped a critical test. He didn't do the finger to nose, which I think is another critical test where they miss their nose. And he didn't do the Romberg, which is the 30-second estimation. You have him stand there with his head tilted back with his feet together. That's when I get the most swaying and I can really tell somebody's on the influence. If you think you're drunk or your buddy's drunk, next time they're drunk, tell them to close their eyes, tilt their head back and stand with their heels and toes together, hands down by their side, and just tilt their head back for 30 seconds and watch them. And you're going to see how drunk they are, if they can make it 30 seconds. And if they do, you're going to notice the swaying gets longer and longer toward the end of the test. So that's kind of like a little brief education on tips and tricks of FTO or field sobriety tests. If you have to go to court, preparing your report, how cops do it, why they do it, practice with your friends, whatever. Now, see, we used to get the DAs. We would have DAs come over, and they would come and actually volunteer to drink, and we would do field sobriety test training for cops in the academy or for advanced officer training or whatever training we were doing at field sobriety test, and we would have DAs come in there and get drunk, and basically we'd supply the alcohol, the government would, and they would get to drink free. They'd sit in there and bullshit, and then after, like, we'd do a test after 1 drink, after 2 drinks, after 3 drinks, and then, you know, someone would be snockered drunk. We'd have people give them a ride home. They'd have 5, 6 drinks just being complete fools. And then you would let officers do these tests on actual drunks at different levels of drinking so they can really show the extreme and the variances and how the mind deteriorates on fine motor skills the more you drink. But anyway, hopefully you got some out of there on field sobriety test, and we'll end that there.